the bodies of 2 more victims have been recovered from the latest boat mishap in Borgu. It's a painful update that adds to a growing list of lives lost in similar accidents. And sadly, this is not the first boat mishap even in Niger State this year, nor is it an isolated case. From Lapai to Shiroro, from Sokoto to Kebbi, the pattern appears to be the same. Overloaded boats, poor safety compliance, and communities left in grief. So with so many incidents recorded across Nigeria just this year, does it not now call for nothing short of an emergency intervention by government? Before the latest boat accident in Niger, at least 6 major boat mishaps have been recorded in Nigeria this year, with many deaths recorded and several others missing. On the 2nd of June 2025, a canoe carrying 9 passengers in Shagari local government area of Sokoto State overturned. 7 persons, including women and children, were killed, with 2 persons survived. About 2 weeks after that, at least 4 persons were reportedly killed in a boat accident that happened at Yauri River in Kebbi State. And on the 27th of July, a boat with about 100 traders heading to a market capsized in Niger State. At least 13 deaths were confirmed and about 26 passengers rescued. The National Emergency Management Agency confirmed that 9 people lost their lives in a boat accident in Taura local government area of Jigawa State that same day. On the 17th of August, a vessel carrying around 50 passengers and goods capsized in Goronyo, Sokoto State, leaving at least 25 feared dead. Rescue operations managed to save some 41 people, while 4 deaths were officially confirmed before the search was called off. Last year, more than 300 people lost their lives in boat accidents across Nigeria, with over 400 deaths recorded in the last 6 months of the year. It's a terrible situation, and in fact, they say that the numbers are just what you see on the papers, that in most cases the numbers are way higher than what's been reported largely on media. Let's talk to our Niger State correspondent, Chineme Bamaye, who's covered all the boat mishaps this year in Niger. Chineme, thank you for joining us on Beyond the Headlines. It's been how many boat mishaps now in Niger this year? Walk us through the timelines and casualties.
Hi, Nifemi. Good to join you again today for Beyond the Headlines, because I know that we're going to really break down the issues that we've been talking about that has constituted to some of these unfortunate incidents. So far this year, there's been just 2 boat mishaps in Niger State. The recent one actually being the second, and the last one lost quite a number of persons, about 15 persons in the last one. And in this particular one, 29 persons, 29 lives were lost. Quite unfortunate. And like I'd always say, Niger State is, you might not consider Niger State to be a riverine town, but you have quite a number of rivers flowing through the state. You know, from the western part of the state, you have the River Niger flowing through Mokwa and Edati part of the state. Then from the northeast part of the state, you have the River Kaduna flowing through Kagera and that axis, and which ends up as a tributary into the River Niger. All of these rivers, there are other rivers, you know, and these are usually the major means of transportation for the people, because roads are bad in those areas. For example, around Mokwa and Lafiagi. Lafiagi is a border town in Kwara State. You know, for you to leave Mokwa, for you to leave Lafiagi to Edeti in Niger State, you need to have a 4 hours detour, whereas you can just say it's a 30-minute sail on the water. You know, so which would you prefer? You'd rather go through the 30-minute sail instead of using 4 hours on bad road. So I just said that to establish that marine transportation is not optional for the people. It appears to be the only means of transportation for them. So that's why you keep having some of these things, just to lay the background. And like I said, this year, last year we had a very tragic incident in Bajibo, where over 300 persons were boarded a particular canoe, and when it capsized over about 150 lives were lost in that particular incident, and it was quite a tragic one in 2024.
The fatalities rate between 45 to 57 between the two incidents you've talked about, from Lapai to Borgu and what have you. But how has the state and federal government responded? Have you heard of any immediate relief, compensation, or official inquiry launched each time this happened?
It's quite unfortunate that this is a repeated cycle. These things keep happening over and over again, and it's beginning to sound like a broken record. It's like, oh, it's another boat mishap, and then we've lost X number of lives, and then some records are taken from the incident, and it appears that's all, and nothing significant is done about it. For example, last year in Bajibo, the incident I just referenced, I went there to cover this story, and right before my eyes, I was speaking to the local authorities there, and even some relations that had lost their loved ones, and I saw another canoe, sailed, I mean, leaving the shore, and the people were without life jackets. And in my head, I was trying to imagine, so what are the authorities supposed to be doing here? Right before my eyes, we were talking about lives that were lost, and then another set were leaving, repeating the same pattern of travel. So it just tells us how much enforcement has not been carried out yet. A lot of times when these things happen, the emergency management agency come, and then they take data, and you really do not get to hear of any form of compensation. Maybe later some people can just bring maybe a number of life jackets, and that's all. Until another mishap happens, then you see the same pattern of response again. It's unfortunate.
We'll talk about the response from the agencies shortly, but precisely how did the state governor or the state government react? What has been their response specifically?
These agencies they are arms of the state government. For example, in Niger State, you have the Niger State Emergency Management Agency. Ideally, they are supposed to take care of any of those natural disasters. They're supposed to be the first responders from the angle of the government, and then you have the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. And then, like I said, whatever I said is usually the state's response. Nothing much is done about it. For example, the recent one at Borgu, we just saw a statement released by the Chief Press Secretary to the governor, condoling the people and sympathizing with them, and just saying people must learn to use life jackets, and people must learn to abide by water travel rules, and then that's all. Literally, that's all. You don't get to hear anything again, probably, if another one happens.
And sympathy is not enough. The National Inland Waterways Authority did mention that it distributed 3,700 life jackets in Niger State alone earlier this year. Where are the life jackets? Why are boat operators not using them?
Okay, first, like I said earlier, you have plenty communities in Niger State that rely on water for transportation. There are 25 local government areas in Niger State. 16 out of those 25 local governments have water, I mean, massive water bodies around them. So it tells you how many, the number of life jackets that these people will require to be able to travel safely. You see some of those boats, I've visited some of these areas, and literally, if there were enough life jackets, at least you could see life jackets around. I've been to some of these places, and you don't see any life jackets, except when the government, maybe all these agencies, they visit those places, and then they make those ceremonial distribution to the people. Part of what I was going to talk about earlier, Nifemi, is how the bulk always lands on the tables of the people. While they push the blame, they always push it over to the people that they don't use life jackets. But these life jackets are not enough. And life jackets are not items that you could walk into a store and just pick up one, at least in this part of the country. You don't find them in stores. The people rely on the government to provide life jackets for them, but these life jackets are not enough. For example, 3,500 life jackets. I can't tell what the distribution pattern was like, or how many were given to the communities, and how many communities got what. But when you go to some of these local governments, they have different harbors where they load their boats from. So many of them, and the life jackets are just not enough. That's the point I'm trying to make. So I don't know how that 3,500. I'm not sure it was enough, because when you still go, you still will not find people using life jackets. So if you saw the life jacket and they didn't use it, probably you could say that the people were just refusing, but you don't find them in those locations.
NEWA has also added that it's running sensitization campaigns about safety, enforcing against overloading, which has occurred as one of the major issues as regards many of the boat mishap we've covered this year. Night travels, boats that are not seaworthy and what have you. Are these programs having any real measurable effect on the ground in Niger State? Are locals complying, or is enforcement still weak?
A couple of months ago, I joined NEWA to a community called Kacha, where they went to sensitize the people, and then they set up, or they inaugurated some seawater marshals, some sort of partnership with the authorities in the communities, and I can't tell how effective that has been, because like I said, when you visit these places after these ceremonial activities have been carried out, you find out that the people return to status quo, which is actually the problem. And I think NIWA as an agency needs to do a lot more than sensitization. Sensitization is good, yes, but we've all seen now that the challenge is enforcement. That's why you have rules, and that's why you have this arm of the agency to enforce. So when you don't enforce, people would want to go back to the ways that they are comfortable with. For these locals, some of them believe that, hey, they won't tell you that they can swim in this water at any time of the day and nothing will happen, that they were giving birth in this area. And there are some superstitious beliefs that the water knows them, they know the water cannot drown a native of that community, but oftentimes, time and time again, it has proven to be false. So I'm saying that to say that the people would rather do what's comfortable for them. But
Indeed.
if this has become a menace, enforcement needs to be taken to another level. And I would say that a state of emergency should be declared in this area in order that these things can stop. Because at least for the past 4 years, each year you have nothing less than three boat mishaps in Niger State, and you could check the records. The records are there. So it means this thing is reoccurring, and nothing has been changed in the approach.
Indeed. You had scheduled the DG and SEMA to join us on the news last night. That interview didn't happen. What have they committed to? Have you seen a ramped up rescue infrastructure over the years? Issued safety advisories after each accident? Precisely what void would you say they're feeling right now?
I think a lot depends on the leadership of these agencies. Like rightly said, the leadership, the head, the DG of that agency was supposed to speak last night, and then they turned down such opportunity to be accountable at free will, and like nothing is done about it. And it's because there are gaps and loopholes in their responses a lot of time. Like I told you, after these incidents, after the data is published, everybody returns to status quo. And probably once in a while, they have sensitization visits. For an agency like that, that's all that they can do. They just go around, sensitize these people. And once in a while, maybe agencies like Hyperdeck, provide maybe a few life jackets here and there to these communities, and that's all. So I think the leadership needs to be properly needs to be properly addressed, so that these things can change. I mean, a couple of days ago, the governor of Niger State dissolved the entire state cabinet, and his reason for doing that was, he said it was based on based on their performances in the appraisal, saying that some of these ministries are underperforming. So I'm saying some of these agencies, if it is proving that they cannot handle this situation, something should be done about the leadership that will eventually bring a change, in the way these things are handled.
Chenemi, President Tinubu has on multiple occasions publicly mourned victims, ordered investigations, directed NIWA to intensify surveillance and enforce the ban, on night sailing and a couple of other issues that have dragged on for years. We need to see follow-throughs. We need to hear public updates on what NIWA's expanded surveillance looks like and whether or not prosecutions of violators are actually happening in these areas. But you have spoken with people in these communities. What are they saying? Precisely what are they asking for, especially following the recent incident in Borgu?
Nifemi, I think the federal government is doing its part, and we have three tiers of government. You have the federal, you have the state, and you have the local. I think it is time that the local government, in partnership with the state government, get serious about the issues of enforcement by working together with the local authorities. The people that use this means of transportation, they live within these communities, and in those communities, they have their ward heads. They have their local vigilantes. They have youth groups. These people can be co-opted into the system. You have the local government chairman. What are the chairmen doing, in collaboration with the traditional leaders, with the ward heads, to ensure that these people live around them? So there's no way you will say the ward head does not know the person they know they even know where they live. They know their houses. They know each other. They attend it. They go to the same market. They buy from the same market. So these people know each other. So I'm saying that the local government needs to be held accountable to, in the issue of enforcement. If the federal government has given a directive, it's the job of the state government and the local governments to follow through, hold these people accountable. Now, you don't have just you don't. It's not just the NIWA authority that you have. You also have marine police. I've been to some of these places and I see them with the boat and with their boats and their guns. They are able to chase down any boat. If these places, where these boats load from are properly manned, if the harbors are properly manned, there is no way people can leave those places, and travel by night, or they're like you rightly said, the health of their boats. They use old rickety wooden boats. If these things are not checked, there's no way we will not continue having this. Then the people tell you that they need maybe some form of empowerment to change their boats. They want to change their boats, but the finances, the funds to get better boats are just not available. So you see, it's not just the people's refusal to change, but also the capacity, right, that would empower them to change. They don't have it.
I had a major stakeholder within the NSIB scheduled for this conversation earlier today. That interview was rescheduled. I'm hearing that the insight into this accident is still sketchy. I'm hoping that they can join us subsequently. But beyond the talks, it's also important that we actually see the impact of what government is doing, because these are not just numbers. These are real people. The NSIB NIWA Stakeholders Workshop that held recently in Abuja, NIWA was reporting deploying over 600 water marshals, gazetting the water transportation code, rolling out modern ferries. But from this conversation, I'm wondering, is Niger really feeling these interventions? Because you just talked about marine police.
Honestly, I can't say Niger is feeling this intervention. I've been here. I've been reporting these cases almost every year, back to back. Now, the rains are here, and the rivers will begin to overflow their banks. So somehow, you're expecting to hear other incidents, that will come up later. It tells you that the level of enforcement is still very low. Like I said the other day in Kacha, I don't think the issue is about the laws. I think it's about enforcement. I even saw them printing out banners to clearly explain the fines for different offenses. But are there people on ground to enforce it? That's the conversation. So if if the federal government is setting up is training people or deploying marine police or officials, I think a state like Niger State need more of that. And beyond that, I don't think that number is enough to go around the country. So you definitely need to work with the locals.
Indeed.
Incorporate these people, the people, the youth in the neighborhood, incorporate them. The boat owners association, it's actually a very strong association. I've spoken to these people, and the association is working. They know everybody, they know every boat owner. In fact, even owners that don't live amongst them, that only have operators around, they know them. So when you work with these associations, with these groups, you are able to mitigate against some of these things, and
Indeed.
enforcement might be easy. Yeah.
Good place to leave it. Sometimes all you need to go beyond the headlines is talk to the journalist who is not only telling the story but living the story himself. Tinubu Bamae, thank you so much for saying it as it is. Not minding whose ox is God. Tinubu Bamae live for us in Niger State. Thank you for your contribution. That's our show today, everyone. Remember, you can watch it again at midnight and 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.